What Color? I'm Dal Black here with CF Constant Flow. What's going on, man?
What's going on, Dal Black? Just chilling out here in Wells Country, having a great time.
So this is State Terrorism Tour. This is your Cardiff leg. How you finding so far?
I mean, I love it so far. I love the people. I've been treated very well, and I love to be in a place where everybody speaks English.
The other thing I want to talk about with you today is the Ascension album. Let's get straight into that.
Yes.
That's dropping, I think it's on the 25th this month, 29th?
Actually, they rescheduled the date. They pushed it forward, pushed it back or whatever. It'll be September 2nd is when it's prepped up. Everything is mastered. Everything is ready to go. And Immortal Technique, the president of Viper Records, declared that to be the official release date. So I just want to make it clear for everybody out there that the release date for my project named Ascension will be on September 2nd of this year, 2014.
Okay, September 2nd. What can we expect from that project?
Well, there's a lot of ideas that I'm putting on there. Basically, the premise of the album, which of course by its title, Ascension, means moving upward. I mean, for those who don't know, I have a historical history with Immortal Technique. I knew him before he dropped his Volume 1 project, and he always discussed things about taking me on tour and stuff like that. So he started taking me on tour in 2008, after he was established. And then from there, he's seen that I was developing as an artist, not only as a freestyler, because I was always known as a great freestyler, but as well as a writer of songs. And it took interest in me. And then Torre, or Southpaw, his producer, liked what I was doing, and then finally was like, I'm going to produce your project specifically. And that's when him and I sat down and came up with these ideas, and that's when Ascension came in. So all that together means that it was hard work that led to my way up, and that's why this is called Ascension.
Okay, so what kind of ideas are you putting forward in terms of what can we expect in terms of ideology let's talk about? Because you're very historically knowledgeable about it, so what kind of things can we expect from you? I know I listened to Walk With Me, TOS, very, very high impact tracks. So what can we expect from you?
Well, from the Ascension project, basically there's a lot of things that deal with my life, from me going through my trials and tribulations, a Puerto Rican living in an area where one was not accepted because of my ethnicity and things of that nature, and rising above all my struggles to become an artist who have to be a beacon for those who are out there, to give them light, to show them that if I can make it, they can make it as well. And then another thing is the whole inclusion of everybody, that humanity is all one, whether you are Muslim, whether you are Christian, whether you are Jewish, whether you are Yazidi, whether you are Zoroastrian, whether you are Buddhist, whether you are Hindi, Jainist, whatever. We are all part of this big thing. We are all part of the human family, and so I'm trying to push that as well. In regard to my politics, I'm contrary to what my government has done. So of course there's a lot of things that are not anti-West, but anti-my government. The things that they've done, the atrocities they've committed in the past. 400,000 or 500,000 souls who were taken in Iraq. Blessings to all those people. People in Afghanistan, even the people as far back as Vietnam and the Philippines. If we go even further back to the Native Americans, there's always going to be, if you're not speaking about any atrocities that are happening, like MLK said it best. He's like, injustice anywhere is injustice everywhere. I don't know if exactly that's the way you phrase it, but it resonates with me. I remember one day I had an argument with these three fellows. They happened to be African American. They ran into my car, and they didn't want to give me their insurance information. It was 3 in the morning. Whatever, we developed in a scuffle. I ended up knocking the dude out. I told them I didn't want to, but they ended up pushing me into that. And then the police officers came, and I see that the guy was a little bit out of it. And the police officer tripped him, and the guy fell on his face. And I was like, yeah, I'm not with that. I defended myself, and I was successfully able to do what I did to defend. I successfully defended myself. But you have this man in cuffs, and you're gonna just like trip him and let his face hit the floor. I mean, I'm not with injustice. Injustice anywhere is injustice everywhere. You know what I mean? And the cop was looking at me like I was crazy, but it is what it is.
What was your first contact with hip hop?
My first contact with hip hop happened with my cousin Evelyn, rest in peace. She died like not too long ago. But she would, they would play video music box. These are things that I wasn't exposed to as in my household. So I used to go over to their place, probably a little bit more urban than me. So they would show me all this stuff, and then I was like, blown away. And then I started rhyming myself. And then as time went on in grade school, I started rapping, like, the lunchroom table shit. And I had a friend named Warren who lived right around the corner from me, and he wanted us to become a group. And we did. And then I started to become better and better and better at it, battling, freestyling all the time and whatnot. And that's how it happened.
Okay, so I talked to a lot of artists in terms of their parents that grew up on Motown rap.
Yeah.
So they had a lot of opposition and bringing down hip hop records and listening to hip hop music. Did you go through any of that?
My mother was never against me listening to a lot of music, but then she wasn't always really present in my life because I lived in a single household. My father left the family around, I think 5 or 6. And my mother had to do it on her own with the help of my grandparents. So she was always in college. She wanted to further her education. So she was going to school. She had a lot of time in my life. My grandparents were there, and they were pretty lax. So I was able to hear all types of music. But I always had my own mind. So even at a young age, I started to get put onto alternative music. Like it would be called WBAI where I'm from, and or 89.9, which is college radio. And then from there, I got introduced to underground. Like the Martin Moore Show, Stretch and Bobbito Show, the Underground Railroad with Jay Smooth. That's when I started really being exposed to. Because at that time, we didn't have a dedicated station for rap. You know what I mean? It would come on at a certain hour or a commercial radio station. It was a whole different kind of game.
So who are your top 5 artists?
Artists? I gotta say Dre 3000 is up there. Nas is up there. Royce the 5'9" to me is like a beast. Redman I was heavily influenced with back in the days when he first came on. And I would say, of course I would throw M in there. This could go on and on.
Let's do it, man. Let's do it. Let's go.
Alright. Dead Prez, I always liked Dead Prez music. There's so many other artists out there that we could go on.
This is not for the benefit of you. I'm going to hold my Bible just down.
Yeah.
So that's the difference.
Yeah. Let me see, between them, I think if I had, nothing's coming to mind, but I would definitely put Jay-Z there. There's some artists that I like that other people don't like. I like some of Kanye's stuff, but I don't like the whole kilt wearing stuff. So you know what I mean? And I don't like the whole ultra fashion, ultra fashionable, fashionista stuff like that. But it is what it is. Bro.
What do you think about the current situation in the Gaza, Israel?
I feel like if you look at the history of what goes on after the 1967 wars, when Israelis took over the West Bank from Jordan, and they took Gaza. I don't know if it was in 1967, but they took Gaza from Egypt, right? The people that were settled there ended up becoming, they became essentially refugees because they weren't given citizenship, The Israelis have occupied that territory since that time. And in that time, in that duration, they developed a lot of illegal, which the UN deemed illegal, and I as well, illegal settlements in the area of the West Bank and Gaza. When Sharon came into power, I think towards the end of his administration, he did away with the settlements in Gaza, only to further increase the development of other settlements in the West Bank. If you look at the West Bank, it's Swiss cheese with a bunch of other Israeli communities protected by the IDF, and then on top of that, there are 3 sections, I think section A, B, and C, where only, in reality, 20% of that land is really controlled by the Palestinian Authority and the Palestinians, the citizens of Palestine government. And now it's broken into 2 different areas. You got Fatah that runs, or the PLO that runs the West Bank, and then you have Hamas, which I'm thinking was created actually by the Israelis to counter the power of Fatah in Gaza, And the thing is, the Israeli government wants these two people to be in constant fighting against each other. I assume when they had they pronounced that there was going to be a unification of the two groups in order for there to be a unified Palestine, you know, with Fatah in the West Bank and Hamas in Gaza, is when Israel was like, no, no, no. I mean, even when the United States, when the Palestinian Mahmoud Abbas, when he went to the UN and they declared that there was a Palestinian state, the Israelis, as well as the Americans, see, I find kind of crazy, but that tells you how strong the Zionist lobbyists are, were protested against that, you know? Protested against that. So you protest one thing, you don't allow people to have a state, you develop a party to counter another party, you Swiss cheese a land up, and you have these people living in abject poverty, they don't have any opportunities, what do you expect them to do? You know? It's like in front of our eyes, we see these people being wiped away. And no one's doing nothing, no one's doing anything. And unfortunately, these people are just played as pawns in a big chess game, the Palestinians. Just like other groups.
And what do you think a resolution could be? Or do you, how, I don't think it's fair to ask anyone what a resolution would be, but how do you think a resolution would come about?
I'm not against the state of Israel. I know the atrocities that Jews have suffered, you know, historical wise. And I know if we were to take the Jews out of that area, they'll come back 1,000 years later. They've tried it so many different times because there's a doctrine, some book that they have that says they belong. I mean, even me, I have a small percentage of some support of Jewish ancestry, not that I empathize or sympathize with Zionism. What I do think is that there should be a two-state solution. There should be a full dismantlement of the settlements in the West Bank, and that the Israelis should go back to the 1967 borders or work fine for everyone. You know, that's basically what should happen. It's just a real simple solution, and the United States, as well as the government of UK and other Western countries who have the power to make this happen, should move forward and do it. Because if not, there's going to be a lot of calamity. There's going to be a lot of innocent children that are being slaughtered on a day-to-day basis. I mean, how many civilians, innocent children and women are the people that are the victims of war? Not the fighters. The fighters go and they find places to hide. They have bunkers to go to. It's poor people and women and children that are being killed. Even on the side of the Israelis, so they had 2 casualties. One person had a heart attack because they went into a bomb shelter. But look what's going on in Gaza on a day-to-day basis. And if you don't like there to be a war sore, right, then why recreate a war sore in the Middle East? You know?
You're a very well-read person. So name 10 books that you think must read right now.
I mean, of course, Howard Zinn's The People's History of the United States, I advise that. Muhammad Yunus, a lot of Muhammad Yunus books, a lot of Noam Chomsky books, Norman Finkelstein. I mean, the list goes on and on. You know what I mean? I read a lot. So,
cool. Well, this has been New World Color with Dal Black, Constant Flow. Album Ascension, dropping on the
Ascension, correct. It's right here, as you can tell. Ascension. This is my Instagram information, CF201. My Twitter is CF20, like the letter 1. And my Facebook is Constant Flow. You can also find me on ViperRecords.com.
New World Color, Dal Black. Peace.